Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now March 3rd of 2022, and ever since the very end of the Book of Boba Fett, and now how we're getting very close to the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series, a lot of Star Wars fans around the world are very much excited about what's to come by George, John, and Dave, and how they're really going to be able to bring the Star Wars universe in a brand new direction than ever before. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way, guys, I am on Twitter at Mike01 if you guys want to go ahead and give me a follow on there. I do post a couple of entertaining things from time to time and really make sure to interact with you guys further. So what's even all the more exciting right now is that, yes, we have the Kenobi series on the horizon, we have the Mandalorian Season 3 getting very close to ending principal photography, which means ending filming before they head into post-production. A lot of things are really doing very, very well right now behind the scenes between John, George, and Dave, really directing, of course, Star Wars in a new direction. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. They really want to give fans a brand new take on the franchise that we would have never expected to have seen on either Disney Plus or in the theaters. Now, on top of all of this, one thing about the Disney Star Wars universe is that they really are trying to create multiple eras. We have the post-return of the Jedi era, which is also known as the mandoverse, as the fans like to call it. We have the bridge between episode 3 and 4, which is the Kenobi TV series. We have High Republic projects in the works. We have other Star Wars shows in the works that's going to take place in between other movies. So you can see how they're really trying to create all of these different points in time in order for themselves to kind of create different opportunities of creating new spin-offs on top of that as well. Now, with that being said, however, when it all dwindles down to actress Daisy Ridley, the one who portrayed Rey, she has been more vocal about her experience with Lucasfilm and Disney lately since the sequel trilogy films came to an end. Now, since then, Ridley has been in multiple talks with John and Dave Filoni and reprising her role in the form of cameos for new and upcoming Star Wars TV shows and movies. However, in a recent interview, Daisy Ridley went on to talk more about Disney and Lucasfilm, where she went on to state that there is something that I believe needs to be said, especially for the fans to know, is that when I first signed on for the character of Rey, Disney in the beginning were really pushing hard for my character to be either a daughter or niece of Luke Skywalker, to hold that Skywalker tradition. It's something that was an ongoing discussion. J.J. Abrams was going to take many of Michael Arndt's ideas into the script, and Disney eventually absolutely refused to make me a Skywalker and was out of spite, most likely, toward George Lucas at the time, along with Kathleen Kennedy. I really felt that this was out of spite, of course, to other Star Wars creators. I can assure you that that was the plan. To make Rey, of course, the daughter or niece of Luke, that eventually went sour. And in the beginning, they didn't want to make it a secret either, of course, either way or the other, one of which, of course, was going to be one of the big reveals. They wanted to actually make it just there as to who I was in the actual movies. Kathleen Kennedy, however, is the one who pushed and pushed to do away with any major Skywalker connections to Luke directly, and I will never forget, it actually made George Lucas very upset about all of this. Now, let me just stop right there for a second. Now, Daisy Ridley has been a little bit more, vocal about everything related to Disney and Lucasfilm, and you can see how she's making it more known of what Disney tried to do in the beginning and what they eventually refused to do, and exactly why they refused to do it. And you can see how a lot of this originated from Bob Iger, from Kathleen Kennedy, wanting to eventually play things safe with Episode 7. You guys may, in fact, recall that Michael Arndt, the original writer, wanted to actually make Luke Skywalker the main character in Episode 7, and that was eventually scrapped. Now, there was a reason as to why that was eventually scrapped, and we've talked about this multiple times before in the past, and a lot of it had to do with Kathleen Kennedy, a lot of it had to do with Bob Iger and the Disney higher-ups at the time. And there was a lot of things going back and forth. I would say it was like the beginning of 2014, right around that time. So, with that being said, however, alright, moving on from all of this, she goes on to say that I kind of felt bad at times because I was part of all of this. I was part of all of this where the executives did not care about the community that supported us, and makes this all possible. I also remember John Boyega getting very let down when he learned that him holding that saber in the posters, him appearing to be that new Jedi in the movie, was all just a ruse, a misdirection if you will, I should add. It was used in a very snarky way, I believe, and it didn't really feel right. It's why I think that John wants nothing really to do with Star Wars for a while now, at least. So Daisy Ridley makes a very good point here. I don't know if you guys remember all the posters to The Force Awakens. I'm sure that you guys do, but for those of you that don't, go ahead and check out some of those posters. Go ahead and check out some of the promotional banners. It was all Finn, holding that lightsaber that once belonged to Luke. And it really, really made you believe that he was going to be the new Jedi, the new main character, if you will, right? And it was all nothing but misdirection. And I understand that you want to do misdirection sometimes, but there were obvious reasons as to why John Boyega was very let down because of that. And he talked about this also before in the past. And Daisy Ridley, I think, is just shedding more light on all of this and kind of really just giving her own opinion. And honestly, you know, I can see as to why John Boyega wants nothing to do with Star Wars for a while now, like Daisy said. Now, beyond all of this as well, alright, it begins to progress a little bit further, is that she goes on to say that it's why, of course, George had all these great ideas, tons, and I mean tons of amazing ideas that completely outperformed anything that J.J. or Ryan even put out. So she's admitting to that. She goes on to say that it was all geared toward how Luke was going to be used in that trilogy. It was all dismissed on purpose. Disney and Lucasfilm were so afraid of the sequels becoming the new prequels as far as the fans' response and such. And ironically, it turned out worse than that. I still am proud to this day that I got to work on these movies, but Disney and Lucasfilm only made it harder for me to truly accept my role in all of this, as I noticed a large division between the community. I really feel that Disney and Lucasfilm treated the fans rather poorly, especially after the release of Episode 8 by Ryan, when everybody was trying to tell Lucasfilm what they didn't like. Lucasfilm just kept ignoring all of this and moved along with production of Episode 9 and didn't really seem to care all that much. So, again, you can see how the further time passes by, more and more actors are becoming more vocal. They're becoming more honest with the fans. They're really kind of acting like Sam Raimi did a couple of years ago with Spider-Man 3. You guys may recall back in 2007 when that movie flopped. So Raimi didn't really talk about it for a while. And it took numerous years for him to really say, yeah, the movie is essentially, you know, very poorly written, and it was really pushed upon himself by Sony's executives. So when you look at everything related to that and how it relates to, you know, The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker, it's a similar scenario. The executives really pushed what they wanted to do, but not what the fans expected. And I understand that you can't put everything in there of what the fans want to see, but at the end of the day, you really have to follow a template of what the fans expect to see. You know, a general template, basically just common sense. You know, don't try to actually go out of the way to upset the fans. Try to at least listen to some portion of the fans to some extent. Kind of similar to how John and Dave Filoni did it with the mandoverse. So overall, guys, you know, drop a comment below. Let me know about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.